So AI has become really popular lately, and a lot of people are thinking if AI will replace them. You can watch my other video about what I think about AI replacing programmers. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about an AI tool called GitHub Copilot. So here's GitHub Copilot. It's an AI developer tool, and they give a neat demo on their main website. So this developer is typing in write unit test for this function, and they highlighted this function, and then look, you can see it will write a unit test for this function. Oh, and look at that, this guy is following my mouse. That's pretty cool. So it says here on the website that it's proven to increase developer productivity and accelerate the pace of software development. So I've been using GitHub Copilot a lot lately. I've been doing some research into it, and I was using it just to assess whether or not I could use it in my development environment. But as I was using it, I was really thinking how useful it would be for self-learners to learn how to code. So in this video, I'll be going over the pros and cons on using GitHub Copilot as an educational tool for self-learners who want to learn how to code. And then I'll be giving you two main reasons why you should start using it. So my name's Henrik, and I'm here to help you learn the software skills and tools you need to grow in your software development journey. So let's get started. By the way, if you're in the early stages of your programming journey, I've got a special gift for you. It's called my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a guide that will take you from no coding experience to building your first 4 projects. And the best part is it's free. It's a free gift to you. In this coding challenge, I guide you in 30 days to build 4 programming projects, and I give you some tutorials that are in C. But of course, these projects are really generic and really beginner friendly, and so you can actually code them in different programming languages. You can still benefit from this guide because you can just take the principles that are in my challenge and then apply them to your programming language. You can find the challenge in the link in the description, and if you download it and pay attention to what it says, you'll definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts that will give you a good foundation to your software development journey. Alright, so in order to use GitHub Copilot in Visual Studio Code, you need to go to your extensions, and then you just type in GitHub Copilot. So you just click on this and then you install it here, and then you'll be asked to log in to your account. So you're gonna have an account with GitHub. So after you log in, you'll have access to this chat, and this chat is a chat with GitHub Copilot. It's similar to ChatGPT. So you just click this. Here's GitHub Copilot, and you can ask it different kinds of questions. You can ask it to explain how selected code works. You have to highlight it, and then you can ask it to explain it. You can use this to generate unit tests, propose a fix. So there's a lot of different things you can do, and you have to use this at workspace if you want to ask a question and you want it to answer with your workspace in mind, like the context of your workspace. So if you have a code base and you want GitHub Copilot to answer your question with your whole code base in mind, you have to use at workspace. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a text file, text.txt, and I just have a simple sentence here, and we're going to calculate the frequency of these certain letters. So like, how many times do we see T in this file, or how many times do we see O in this file? So I'm going to create a frequencies.c file, and I'm going to ask GitHub Copilot to code this for me. Alright, so let's ask GitHub Copilot to give us this. Okay, so we can accept this. Let's just accept it and see if it works. As is. Let's try running it as is. Alright, so this is the results. Character frequency in this file, text.txt. So we have spaces. I assume this is spaces. So let's see if there are 8 spaces in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that's correct. How about T? There's only one capital T. There's only one A. Are there 2 Ds? Yeah, there are 2 Ds. Alright, so let's break down the code. So what it does here, this is the path to the file, text.txt, and then it opens it up. If it doesn't work, it says unable to open. And then here is an array frequency, and max number of chars is 256. Because char is a byte, so there's 256 possibilities, and then it initializes it to 0, and then it will get each character and store it in ch, which is a character, and it does it until the end of file. So every time it sees a certain character, it will increment the count, and you close the file and then you print it. Let's ask Copilot if Copilot can ignore uppercase and lowercase. Okay, it says here, sure, you can modify the code to ignore the case of the characters by converting all characters to lowercase before incrementing their frequency. You can use the to lower function from ctype.h library to do this. So here's the modified code. We have to include this library. Okay, and then in the while loop, we have to convert it to lower. Let's do something smaller so I don't have to count too much. Okay, let's go. Okay, so obviously it still has spaces here, and then now it's only looking at the lowercase. So let's go back to the text. All right, so how many T's are there? There's a capital T here. And then so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that works. And then A, how many A's are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then that's correct, that's 8. All right, so let's ask it to do one more thing before I give my assessment, my pros and cons. So let's ask it if it can ignore punctuation. Okay, so it's saying that you can use isPunct function from this library. I think that library is cheating. So let's run that. Oh, it's still counting spaces. Okay, now you can use the isSpace function. That library is cheating. I think what's cool here is that it gives you a code, but it also remembers something that you asked it before. So for example, I was asking it if it can give me, like, just only worry about lowercase, like count the uppercase as lowercase. And then it also remembers that I didn't want the punctuation. So it was able to remember that when it gave me this new code. So let's do that. And now we get a character frequency in this file, and the spaces are not calculated. And let's see if E is correct, just for sanity check. So there's E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it's accurate. All right, so what are my pros? So here are some pros and cons based on this exercise. All right, so the first pro that I would like to showcase here is that GitHub Copilot can give a shortcut for what self-learners are actually doing anyways, and that is going on Google and asking some questions and looking for some example code. So the first shortcut that it gave me was, it was able to give me this whole entire file. What I would have done if I was a self-learner was I would look for example, this part here. This is pretty standard, and so I wouldn't type this out by hand. I would have probably go on Google and type in like how to open a file and read the file. So I would probably just copy the code on Google and paste it in here. So GitHub Copilot can just give that to you right away. And so a lot of these standard ways of doing things in C or whatever programming language you're going to work with, GitHub Copilot can just give it to you. It can give you that template code for you. And that's one of the pros I would like to point out, is it can give you template code or boilerplate code that you can work with. So GitHub Copilot is not just good for giving example code, but it can also give you some sort of plan for how to implement things. For example, here I was asking, can you also ignore spaces? So it gave me a plan, and it said you can use the isSpace function from this library. And to be honest, I never used this library before. So what I would have done it differently. I wouldn't have used this isSpace. I would have checked the ASCII character, and if it was the space ASCII character, I would have put it in this if condition instead. In one of my recent videos, I mentioned that there are 4 phases that I go through when it comes to coding in my job, and that is, the first one is to understand the customer need. Second is to create a proposed plan of action. 3 is the actual coding, and then 4 is integrating my code with someone else's code. So based on GitHub Copilot, it's able to understand the customer need, because I gave it the customer need here, and then it was able to propose a plan of action. So it gave me a plan of action here, and it proposed that I use this function from this library, and then it was able to give me the actual coding. So that's pretty good from GitHub Copilot. So another thing that's nice about GitHub Copilot that I haven't shown yet is that you can actually use it to explain something. So let's try to see if it can explain this piece of code here. So you can actually do Command I. I'm using a Mac, so it's Command I, and then I can do explain here. Okay, so the code snippet you've provided is part of a C program that is checking if a file was successfully opened. File variable is a pointer to the file structure, which is a type defined in the C standard library. The if statement is checking if file is null. In the context of file operations in C, null is returned by functions like fopen when they fail to open the specified file. So it's actually able to explain this if block for me. Alright, so now the cons for using GitHub Copilot. The first one obviously is that GitHub Copilot may sometimes give you incorrect code or code that doesn't work. In this case, it did work, but in other projects that I've tried it with, it gave me some incorrect code, and I couldn't tell that it was not working. It was only until I had to debug the program to figure out what was going on. And then I realized, oh, GitHub Copilot gave me some code that didn't make any sense, so I had to fix it manually. And if you're a self-learner, that's something to watch out for. Sometimes it'll give you incorrect code and you think that's the correct code because you're used to GitHub Copilot giving you the correct code. So you can actually be learning the incorrect thing. So that's something to watch out for. The second con I would say is that GitHub Copilot, if you rely on it too much, it will tempt you to use code that you don't understand. So if I was a self-learner and I never done this kind of thing before. Actually, I've never done this kind of thing before, but I know how to code in C, so I was able to understand all the code. But say I didn't know anything, I've never done this before, then it's tempting to just be like, oh, it works, and then I can run this and say, hey, it works, and then I never look into this for loop, for example. I would never look to try to understand what it's doing. So if you're using GitHub Copilot and it works, then that kind of deters you or discourages you from trying to do it yourself. In university, we didn't have IDEs, so we only had a bare text editor. I had to type all of this by hand. You can be spoiled with GitHub Copilot because it will just give you the code for you and you don't have to think about formatting your for loop correctly or making sure that the for loop is working the way that you think it is. Alright, so the last con, of course, is the price. So it's going to cost you $10 a month, and I don't know if you'll consider it a con. Like $10 a month, $10, what is that? That's like a Starbucks drink or like a Big Mac at McDonald's. So it's up to you how you look at this, if it's really a con for you. For me personally, I'd probably do it. I'd probably pay the $10 a month. If I'm a self-learner and I don't know how to code, I would probably pay the $10 just to save time, because when you're learning how to code and you're self-learning, you want to get rid of all the things that could hinder you in your learning process. So that leads me to my 2 reasons for why I think you should use it, why you should pay that $10 a month. The first one is it shortcuts the learning process for you, and a lot of things that I would do as a self-learner is that I would Google things. I would Google a lot of these things, look for example code to try to learn, but GitHub Copilot can shortcut that process for you. Alright, so the second reason why I would pay the money is because I want to get into the habit, or I want to exercise that muscle of using AI coding tools. I think AI coding tools is going to be the next wave in the software development world. So like the way that compilers revolutionized the coding industry, I think AI coding tools will do the same. I think before AI replaces programmers, AI will first give us a lot of nice coding tools, and developers will start to use AI coding tools more frequently. And then I think maybe over time, maybe very gradually, a lot of programming tasks will be replaced, and then I don't think the developer will ever be replaced, but a lot of the tasks that a traditional developer would do, those things would be replaced. It's kind of like when programmers a long time ago were coding in assembly. They're like replaced by these compilers. So now we don't have those kinds of programmers anymore. Programmers what they've done is they've adapted. They've picked up new programming languages. I was talking to a coworker. She told me she didn't learn C in school. I was shocked. She never learned C. She learned Fortran in school. Then that was a generation above me, and she learned C on the job. She learned C when she was actually working in the field. So likewise, I think us as developers, we're going to be using AI coding tools in the next couple of years, maybe in the next 10 years or so. I don't know if GitHub Copilot is going to be the AI coding tool that everyone's going to use. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of different coding to AI coding tools out there, so it remains to be seen which AI coding tool will be the best one. But just to get that habit of prompting an AI and chatting with it, asking it to give you some code and explain something to you, I think this is just good habit for developers who are self-learning to get into the habit of learning and adapting to the newest technologies. Alright, that's it for this week's video. I hope it really helped you out and give you some ideas on how you could start using GitHub Copilot in your software development environment. And if you're using GitHub Copilot, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? If you had some frustrations, I'd love to hear about them in the comments section. I know a lot of people have some controversy. There's actually a lot of controversy around GitHub Copilot, or differing opinions. Some people say that GitHub Copilot gives them some mumbo jumbo code and then they have to spend more time trying to understand it, to debug it, and then it's actually counterproductive. So if you've had those kinds of experiences, let me know in the comment section. And if you had good experiences, please let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. Alright, like I mentioned earlier, if you're just starting off in your programming journey and you don't know where to start, you can download my 30-day beginner coding challenge. And it's a 30-day guide where I teach you how to build those 4 beginner programming projects. It's really beginner friendly, and I go step by step on how to build each one and then go through the tutorials that you need to build each one. So download that in the link in the description. Alright, thanks for watching this video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments section and I'll be sure to answer you there. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.